Good morning, Sarah. It's been a little bit of a time warp this morning. How are you? Or this afternoon for you, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, it's evening.
Yes. Although an hour later than it was last month this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are
Yeah.
here now. So good morning or good evening, everyone listening. And thank you, Michelle, once again for having me here.
Yes, I'm very, very happy. Today is World Mental Health Day as well, which I was reminded of a week
Oh,
ago and kind of scattered around. So we were going to go live at 10 on the 10th of October on World Mental Health Day, which is pretty cool. And we're actually
yeah.
talking about quantum healing today. So, not necessarily mental health, which is brilliant because I have a big issue with this whole mental health industry. And I think that we are
But
actually,
I think we
ooh,
can talk about mental health because actually
yeah,
it's related a lot to quantum healing, and because we're on Mental Health Day, why not
yeah. Well,
tackling this issue? So
I
tell
think
me
we
about your
are.
concerns about the
We
mental
are
health industry.
whole beings and not just, sectioned into. We live in a world where there's a quote. I'm actually doing a panel kind of dialogue later on this, but Krishnamurti's quote. It's no measure of health to be adjusted to a sick society, and that's what I think makes it for me so interesting. This time where mental health specifically has become such a big industry, um, health in general, really. The big pharma, the whatever it is, we are being pushed into things that aren't necessarily good for us. And I think looking at energy, which is our theme this month in the Wisdom Seekers as well, is a great way to kind of see ourselves as, um, I suppose, material manifestations of our energy fields, and how we work with the wholeness instead of dividing ourselves up into mental and physical and whatever it is.
Yeah, and I agree on that bit, right? Because we had some
Mm.
conversations before, and we talked about holistic view anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. Like when you say, it's Mental Health Day, but mental health, we cannot just tackle mental without taking into account all the other parts that constitute ourselves. As same as we can just tackle physical without, taking into account what actually caused that physical and what is the emotional thing
Yeah.
related to it. So yeah, our approach, and I think, of all the people watching this, is definitely holistic. So in that sense, I can agree. But also, I would add that because we're on mental health, I actually like a lot to be in the mental health space because, of course, in my own way, like in the holistic way,
Hmm.
but it's good that we talk about it because at least it gives people an excuse to talk about something that is not visible, right? And it's
Hmm.
such a source of suffering. Like at least, when somebody breaks his arm or has a like illness, at least you can see it in the body, right? But
Yeah.
mental health, you can't really see it. And so having days such this one, and having like a whole industry of coaching, personal development, therapy, or whatever what you want to be related to it, of course stating that they're more holistic the merrier. It's like the yeah,
Yeah.
because you can't really take it out from the physical body, and you can't really untangle it from the spiritual dimension as well, from the energetics and from whatever we carry through generations.
Mm.
So yeah, but at least it gives us an excuse to talk about this, and people can make it more relatable. And also because our mental health is so sick, actually, like as our physical health, right, in general. And
Yeah.
so we have such an epidemic of mental health, specifically lately with all the technology, right, and all the addiction that it does, and all the screen addiction that it does, specifically even on younger generations.
Hmm.
Yeah, just mental health
Yeah.
is
And
challenging.
yeah, no, definitely. And for me, it always comes back to a lack of connection. It might be this symptom at the moment is a screen. is standing in for that human connection, which is sad because it's being used in that way. It is generated in a way where either it creates fear, which keeps you kind of bound to it, the news or those things, or it creates, dopamine rushes for our children when they're watching these YouTube videos. It's insane how it feels so geared towards keeping them tied in instead of having that human connection with
Yeah.
with others. That's
Yeah.
energy, isn't it? To be able to be connected, not just to people but also to nature. This is something we both are very passionate about. um, the we are nature, but we've been separated, and there's this illusion of separation, that we are different, or that we are, not part of it, that we are um, looking from the inside out instead of we are a manifestation of all of that. And that kind of brings me
Yeah.
back to quantum healing. This is the inward, has been for a couple of years. What is quantum? How would you describe quantum healing from
Yeah.
your
Uh,
perspective?
of course, from my perspective, which is professional, but I'm not a scientist per se. I did some training in neuroscience, and that's the closest I got to science.
Mm-hmm.
But I am talented, and I train myself like naturally. I follow my natural inclination of working with energetics,
Mm-hmm.
specifically energy psychology. And so my understanding of the quantum is just about the quantum field, which I define as everything we swim into. So yeah, so we have this, as we were talking, right? We have this very impression of being individual, and I am me, you're you, and this is my mother, this is my brother, and it's all interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all interconnected between us, between the environment, between even not just the natural environment, but even the houses. Like, just the environment holds energy, like objects hold energy, or if they don't emit it by itself, because not everything like has emits energy, but at least they respond to a frequency, or they hold one frequency better than another, and so they are still interconnected. And so basically the quantum field is just everything. And
Mm-hmm.
so everything is recorded, everything has either a frequency or has an information. It's like a program in this quantum field. And so when you learn how to conversate with this quantum field, then you can actually retrieve the information that you need at a certain specific moment.
Mm-hmm.
And on the note of what we were saying before, actually, I want just to report an alarming statistics, because we were talking about screen addiction and younger generation specifically. This is a topic I'm totally concerned about.
Yeah.
And I'm actually in the ideation phase of a project for my own country, like Italy, with a couple more people to just give an alternative to young people, like to just tell them what are the basic values of life, because they don't seem to get that. And by speaking the language, so by being on social media, right? So that's where you get them, and then maybe you can bring them to nature or do something with them, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I was reading up some statistics on that, and it's stunning to see that boys, we can say boys, yeah, I mean young people aged between 13 and 17, they are connected 11 hours per day. They spend 11 hours a day on the phone, because they spend it like while they're in school, while they're on the bus, while they're doing dinner, while they're 11 hours per day. So if they're awakened like for 15 hours a day, they're always on, and they check their phone every 4 minutes. Oh, is there any notification? Oh, this is so
Yeah.
this is what like is ruining our brain, right? This is what
Mm-hmm.
is ruining completely our span of attention, our span of focus, our creativity, our connectedness, as you say,
Mm-hmm.
not only with other people and environment, but just with ourselves, right? It's like, this is totally
Yeah.
ruining our presence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's keeping us in whatever somebody put out there for us, you know.
Yeah. It's
It's keeping
control.
up there and not here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so coming back to the quantum field, I gave a general definition,
Mm-hmm.
I think, but I just wanted to make it very relatable to people, because I think that most people think, for example, that energy is something that you only do when you go to work with an energetic healer, or you go to a Reiki healing, or you go to a crystal healer, then you work with energy, you know. And then
Mm-hmm.
they walk out of the room and they think, done, like energy stays in that room. And, you know, in my life, there's no energy. And it's not like that. It's like you're
No.
always in the quantum field. I
Yeah.
see it much more as really this net. Like we have this amazing, always speaking about, you know, this topic of screens and stuff. We have this amazing parallel with the World Wide Web. Like just, you know,
Mm-hmm.
with this web, it's invisible, but it's everywhere and it connects everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very much the same thing. I really see us swimming in an ocean, even if we don't see that. And we're always constantly interchanging information with that energy. And sometimes it's very local, sometimes it's a-local. So sometimes it's not related to any time and space, right? And that's when we can have issues in our unconscious coming up, what we call issues, because there are informations that are there and that today they don't serve us anymore. You know, they might carry information of fear, of anger, or whatever, repression or cultural limitations, and there's so much there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, everything is energy, isn't it? Everything around us is energy. It is an interesting world and interesting space to learn more about. Um, how do you see this in health? You know, I know holistically, you know, finding our space. I know there's a lot of modalities and that we use in that space. But how do you integrate it into your everyday life, for example?
Yeah,
Working with energy, do you you know check in, kind of see what makes, you know, it's quite an intuitive thing as well, I think. We sometimes, or we've been conditioned to ignore these things because it doesn't suit our lifestyles. You know, you have to carry on, you have to do your things, and when something doesn't feel right, then often we ignore it. But we
yeah.
do have a built-in radar, I think, to notify.
Yeah, and especially, you know, especially like this kind of people, like the high sensitivity empaths, like we need a way of life which
Mm,
is much more in our bodies,
yeah.
and our bodies just carry all these informations from the energetic field.
Hmm.
They carry so wisely. And so talking about switching up routines in our day, how, you know, how does it look in our daily life?
Hmm.
This is something I always try to teach people. So far I've had, like, you know, this with my private clients, right? So showing them like how it works in their own life. But actually I got to a point now, because I had a long healing journey myself. And when I say long, it's like more than 12 years. You know, sometimes I do it 20 if I consider the start of my outburst like symptoms, but let's say 12 years, the years I worked on it. And um, and so by, you know, putting them together with seeing what are the practices and what are the routines that really changed how I relate to health, and how my state of health is much better than people I can see around me, even like very aware people, very conscious people, you know.
Mm,
But but it's just, you can just feel that it's just different.
yeah.
So I was just right before coming on this call, which is messaging to somebody, because last time we talked about our trip, my trip,
Yeah.
my trip to Bali, you remember?
Yeah.
And so I was just messaging to somebody from there. They just got back to the US and they told me, la la, everything fine, blah blah. We were very glad, you know, we met there in person. And then they told me, it's a couple, like, so they told me, oh, we both struggled so much with gut issues, you know, when we were there, and like, how did you manage that? And the common thing is that people go to Indonesia and get food poisoning, or if not that bad, at least they have some gut issues.
Mm.
and they're very, like clean eaters.
Yeah.
So this kind of person, like healthy lifestyle, but
Mm.
still not able to relate in their body in a way to listen to the cues, because they actually ended up being very, very sick. They had to go to the doctor. They were about to postpone their flight. They are
Mm.
now on antibiotic cycles. Like they ended up being very sick.
Yeah.
So, and we were in the same time, same places. We met. And so how comes they get sick and I don't get sick, right?
Mm.
And so by saying that, is that really what is missing is the attention of having a daily check-in with your body, which is basically just embodiment. But
Mm-hmm.
this can come only after you have a flat, say, like a baseline, a new
Mm-hmm.
baseline of holistic health,
Mm.
which comes through a lot of healing, which is, again, quantum healing, which is holistic, which is physical, energetic, psychological, spiritual.
Mm.
And I'm not implying that I'm perfect, because I'm not perfect at all, but I'm just working on these metrics
Mm.
of pulling all my threads together and just making it work, and every day creating more harmony. Because the body is supposed to be in homeostasis, like it's supposed to have this healthy state all the time. But is it really true? Because I want to challenge this. Because
Mm.
yes, every living being is like bound. It's kind of pulled towards the future by life force. So life force is so great. Like life force is what gives healing, gives life. Like it's just this life force. So
Mm.
every living being is connected to this life force, and this life force is supposedly keeping us in homeostasis. But actually, we are also here, if we have the holistic view on it, we are also here to just heal stuff intergenerationally. We are the generation of the big healers of the earth, and of the big new earth leaders. And
Yeah.
so our homeostasis actually doesn't never stay the same, because first of all, our environment keeps on changing, and it's not only the external pollutants, it's also, and you can see many places online, it's also the same frequencies of the earth, the same, like the frequencies of the sun, communicating with the earth. So the environment is constantly changing, and so our homeostasis always have to adapt, and
Mm.
this can trigger some reaction that we don't even know were existing. And also, if our physical bodies are right, because I'm having kind of the same routine, well, guess what? Season changes, or guess what? Your hormones change, or guess what? You get all of a sudden you get a memory and you need to work on it, to heal it. And that has some changes in your body. All of a sudden you get triggered. And
Mm-hmm.
then this can happen. So the homeostasis is actually something you need to work on every day, like to keep it going. This is how I see it, and this
Mm-hmm.
can only happen once you release. I say again, once you reach a certain level of baseline that allows you to work free of trauma, because trauma is the biggest like plug of our
Yeah.
time, especially talking about mental health, because it's just in our body. It sits everywhere in our body,
Mm-hmm.
and we're just drowning in it. And I'm just, I didn't realize it, how big it was, until I read, one of the mainstream thinkers, Gabor Mate.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote recently this book about the myth of normal, and in his book, I don't know if you read it, it just did a lot of research on how actually big the percentage is. He's saying like 95% of people are just having traumatic responses and are just living in trauma. And so I'm taking his research, because I haven't done that research, but if the number is that big, it makes a lot more sense
Mm-hmm.
as to why we are living in such a wounded world.
Mm-hmm. And I love Gabor Mate's work. It's also, a lot of such so-called mental health issues are often trauma responses.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. He
and
talks a lot about it, right? That's why I bring him up in this conversation, because that's also something we can talk about mental health, right? So we used to have standards and everything, but he's the first one, like saying,
Mm.
Who cares about the definitions? Who cares about the diagnosis? Because we're not really here for giving diagnosis. We are here to make this work in another way,
Yeah.
right? And heal this just widespread trauma, which is just a reflection, of how sick everything is, or the other way around.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so you can actually be, so in order for you to have what I say next level holistic health, so these day-to-day routines, which for me looks like multiple times a day. So some routines in the morning, we change throughout the seasons, some routines in the night and throughout the day as well. And it's so natural. It's just a new way of living. It's doesn't feel like a burden to me. It doesn't feel like, oh, now I have to take the pill. It doesn't feel like that. It's like, it's the way of being. It's my way of relating to myself and the world. But I couldn't do that as long as I was on the spectrum of personality. How do you say, borderline personality disorder. I was in that spectrum. I was a mental health like case. I had problem. I was a post-traumatic syndrome complex case for so many years. So I couldn't do that by myself until I reached this baseline that actually makes me able to feel, first of all, safe in my body, because if you don't have safety, you don't want to go there, of course. And I was not feeling safe before. And then also gives you enough tools, enough like internal resources, and enough spiritual connection that allows you to work through it.
Yeah.
And so you can build up new routines.
Yeah. If that
And so
works.
you can travel to Bali and not getting sick.
Yeah, exactly. And if that works for you, we are all individual, and it is an individual journey. There is no destination point, as you say. It is a cyclical thing, and we need to find ourselves in that process. There isn't a 5-step plan that works for everybody, or a routine. There are suggestions, and maybe they work for you, or maybe something else works for you. I think it's important that we find our individuality within the world.
Yeah.
We are each different.
Yeah. And that's something very beautiful that quantum healing does. Because whenever I heal because I found a quantum healer teacher that could undo whatever the untangling was in me, like in the
Yeah.
right order. Because this thing of having an order, even in the energetic field, is so important. And I didn't know that before. And so for a long time, I was not a fan of anything energetics, because it would just maybe work for a little bit and then that's it. And that's not what quantum healing does. Like quantum healing, at least how I practice it, it's really a resolving issue, because it's going through, it's respecting the order that they built up with, basically. And so it's really like, of course it won't work for everybody. I'm not implying that, because everybody has a different, tools they can rely on and helpers they can rely on. But the beautiful thing about quantum healing is that whenever you have a one-on-one session, you don't know what you're going to do. And it's so much based on what the energy of the other person is bringing in. And
Yeah.
so it really respects this. And so everything is so individual, so tailored. And there is not one person that walks out of the session, with the same advice or the same routine or the same thing they should they can do at home to improve this thing, right? Even if it's the same thing, even if they have the same issue, it's just totally different way they work with it. And that's what quantum healing does. It's totally individualization. And so that's actually the way to go. I mean, even regular medicine is going towards into like genetics and seeing super personalized treatments. Well, this happened already a long time ago in the other fields.
Yeah, exactly. Slowly, the health system, if we can call it that, is catching up in some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's even like it's still cringy to think that they don't recognize the existence of energy. It's
but they
so
do,
if
though, So in many kind of
No, but like in the
emergency
official
room.
definitions, in the
Yeah,
institution, it's that's the main thing, right? That's why there's this constant clash instead of integration. Yes, we do have integrative practitioners like once every while. We do have a lot of people wanting to integrate that, but still to these days, even though we've been having that wave of naturopaths and integrative, working with the more regular system for like what 40, 50 years, still to
yeah,
this day they don't recognize the existence of chi or the existence of energy in the body
yeah.
in the medical school textbook or whatever, and so it's still not working.
No, it's not working though, and it's very blatantly not working. Yet there's a very slow, almost integration, but not yet. So we can hope, or we can just turn inwards. I mean, even in the quantum healing that you are explaining, the person is an integral part of the healing. It's not something that's being done to them or you. We have all these tools within us. It's often we just need someone or something to activate it,
Yeah,
or to,
basically just receive guidance.
yeah, yeah. But it is it's an internal thing. It's not an external. It's not a pill that you take. It's not a symptom that's being drowned. It's actual healing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. It's always
Oh,
so
you're
great
welcome.
to chat. I think this was the last one of our three-part series, so we're going to have to catch up and see how we can move forward and share a bit more of what you do. And yeah,
Yeah,
I'll also add some of your links. I think I have already, but I'll double check and add some more. And I look forward to seeing all the amazing things that you're doing in your um, business and life.